Well, guys, I've had the privilege of introducing this show for the better part of the past year and a half. And look, we've had some tough shows to intro. We really have. But tonight is tough in a different way. And I have to open with just the absolutely unacceptable actions that occurred in the supporter section at the end of the game tonight. We saw several beers getting thrown onto the pitch when folks were upset with a call. And I got to tell you, on behalf of the show, that is something that we absolutely do not condone and something that we would never, ever support. And if you find yourself in a situation compelled to throw an object of any kind onto the field, you got to check yourself because you're wrong. You can't do that, and you make every DC United fan look bad in that situation.
I am absolutely livid. If you follow me personally on Twitter, I went off. That is never the response you should have regardless of what's happening on the field. It's ridiculous that we have had 3 home games at Audi Field, and the one that we happen to be losing, people are throwing stuff on the field. That is just unacceptable. John, you good with your mic?
We're continuing to have mic issues, which is the theme of home games lately.
I'm just livid. It's never okay to do that. It doesn't matter if it's a bottle or a plastic cup or a can or a plastic cup, because I don't think it was a function of people just like having. Is that me?
Yeah, we think it's Sam.
I think it's Sam, but.
She's
She's got a point there. Look, guys, it just makes us look bad, and we don't want that. Like, let's be class of MLS like we used to be, as DC United, the original franchise dynasty.
It's those two that are going off.
Dynasty in the league. You just don't like to see it. And look, it was a tough game. We'll talk about it. I mean, DC United lose 1-0 to Orlando City. It's suboptimal. But it never calls for a behavior like that.
I will also call on DC United. I'm going to call on the Screaming Eagles, the Barra Brava, and the District Ultras. I don't care what group the individual who threw the can was from. I don't care if it was from none of the groups.
To be fair.
Individuals, you're right. There were many of them, and it wasn't just after the call. It was a little bit after the call, too. There were at least 2 that were thrown, and I don't care if they were part of a group. I don't care if they were part of none of the groups. They were part of the supporter section, and every single group plus DC United needs to be looking at who those people were. You have the technology. I know that you have cameras pointed at the supporter section. I know for a fact that a Screaming Eagle member was banned in the 2019 season for throwing something onto the field. So if you can do that to him, then you can do that to the people who did it tonight. And it's super unacceptable. I am livid.
But it's beyond just because DC United can cancel a person, like a names ticket. It's up to the supporter groups to enforce those rules, because those people can find a way to get a ticket somehow else.
That's right.
We have to enforce the rules amongst ourselves almost, and just not accept that. I turned my back on the field and turned my attention to the people in the stands throwing stuff, and told them in no polite words that was enough.
Yes.
Like, let's. Look, man, it was a frustrating match, and it's okay to be upset. But
absolutely.
Channel that in your chants. Like, express that in the way that you cheer for your team.
It is
not through the way you throw stuff on the field.
It is actively embarrassing when your own players need to be looking at your supporter section and telling you to stop doing anything. That's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to be a DC United fan tonight. That's horrendous.
I agree with you, Sam. And if you looked from the supporter section, the first person over to tell the supporters to stop and to kick cans off the field was Kevin Paredes. And that's a young kid who's looking at an entire section of people who
Adults,
he's waited so long to play in front of, right?
Who are so much older than him, right?
Yeah.
Also, that's not him looking at his equals. That's him looking at adults older than him. That's
right.
got to be intimidating.
And he talked to us, before the season started about like, oh my God, I can't wait to, play in front of people, in front of fans, and like,
right.
It's actually going to be weird for him because he's never really done it. And this was the first home game that he played in, and that was the bullshit he had to deal with. And excuse my language, but it's unacceptable. And when you also put it up on the context of we've spent the better part of the past 15 months just wanting to be back in the stands and to have what we used to have and the opportunity to cheer on our fans, the fact that a very small group of us felt that they could potentially ruin that and jeopardize that for all of us is unacceptable.
Right.
On no uncertain terms.
I mean, there's just nothing else to say. You're totally right. I'm just pissed off at it. Everyone, if you know someone who did it, you need to point it out. If you're a part of the supporter group, or if you were in the section, if you're not in the section, if you were not in the stadium, I don't care. You need to demand that these people face consequences, because it's unacceptable. You are making every single one of us look poorly, and it's just unacceptable. Every single one of us needs to demand better. Joshua, calm us down.
Well, we said before we started the show tonight that we wanted to make our points and we wanted to move on. I've made my points. Sam, taking a big slug of water. Got anything else?
I'm just mad. I will. Yeah, you're
Joshua?
right. I need to take a breath.
I've said everything I need to say.
All right, let's do this. We've never done this before. Let's try again.
You didn't hit the button.
Damn. So close. So close. This is Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken, and I'm excited to welcome you guys in a little bit later into the show tonight, but thanks for listening to us as we address things that needed to be addressed to start tonight's show. But tonight, the Black and Red took on Orlando City SC at home. It was not the prettiest game to watch from a supporter's perspective. The Black and Red fell 1-0 to the Lions in a game where I was longing for either an awesome tackle at the very end and a long cross in to be headed home, or like perhaps Sam, I'm sorry, your mic was on. But
I was saying, oh man,
well done. Or maybe even just a whirly from like 70 yards out. Either of those things would have been great. We didn't get them.
Or from the corner flag, just like whip it in when you get a cleat to the knee.
I think John is trying to bring on Rooney of old, but he knew.
I was also bringing on Rooney of old. That corner kick that Dom Dwyer came.
That was a wave. That's a good shout. Yeah, that's
right. It wasn't quite a corner kick, but it was a free kick.
It was a free kick in the corner, basically a corner kick. Yeah, no, it was a Dom Dwyer. Cleats to the knee.
If that game was at Yankee Stadium, it would have been a corner.
it would have been from the stands.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, it's a 1-0 loss tonight. And obviously, as you guys know, these days with the limited capacity crowd, we're not going to be sending it live to the press conference. We'll add that in later. I am excited to hear what Hernan Losada has to say, but DC United gave up a goal early on in this game, and I was teasing you guys on the ride over here. I was going to tell you what I thought about it. Obviously, Losada is going to be upset about giving up that goal. But in my opinion, I think he's actually going to be upset in the manner in which we gave it up, because I looked at the couple of folks I was standing next to in the stands when it happened and was like, oh my God, we didn't even attack for that ball. We went back to defend, and then we just didn't. And we gave up the goal. And I think Losada is going to be upset because Joseph Mora and I don't remember who else was there. They should have pressed that ball a lot higher, a la the style.
Yeah.
And if you gave up the goal after that, then that's fine, right? You did what you wanted to do, and they scored. But you didn't. You chose to go defend, and then you still gave up the goal. And I think that's why Losada is going to be upset.
Yeah, I'd love to. You just gave a great rendering of the goal. I'd love to hear what Joshua said. For reasons, I was not in the stands at the point of the goal. I'd like to point out that we are all drinking water. So when seems like a very high intensity podcast, that's possibly the reason, is that we knew from the start we all needed to drink water. But Joshua, what do you think went wrong into the goal?
I think John summed it up pretty much. It was a sloppy goal, and the defenses look pretty sloppy all year long, and they've kind of overcome that with high pressing throughout some stages. But someone needed to step to the ball, and there was a desperate lunge at the end, but it just was ugly defending and a deserved goal for Orlando, and it changed the game. How early it was on. I think we see a completely different game if Orlando doesn't get on the board in the 7th minute.
At one point, I think it was maybe James Lambert said, it's interesting that a team is parking the bus against DC United, right? Like, when was the last time we saw that?
But they sure were, right?
But also it was, the 7th minute that Orlando scored, and we should have been able to come back from that. And there was no point during the game in which I really thought that we had clear-cut chances to come back from it, or we had multiple opportunities. And you kind of have, I wonder, do we chalk that up to the fact that Orlando did not have a midweek game? And we did. I mean, I said that in our last pod, that was a concern for me. And who was it with the exact tweet from Hernan Losada, who said, let's check who Orlando played midweek. And then he said, expletive, Orlando didn't play midweek. They're going to be really fresh coming into the weekend. I don't remember exactly who that was. It might have been Jason Anderson, maybe Goff. But, we had kind of hoped that they were going to play midweek. They didn't. And I think you could really see that in the fitness. And I think going into this game, and especially how early it is, again, I've said every single pod, getting used to the system and the high fitness that it demands. We need time to recover in between games, especially now. And we just didn't get that from Thursday to today. And we really saw it.
Look, I think there's a lot that you just brought up that is true. Like, I think, yes, it was weird to see a team kind of bunker against DC United. But also, that's all that Orlando had to do. MLS is a very, very weird league in that it's very home-oriented. Like, if you win at home, you should be good. And so DC United's record at home was one of the very uplifting things of the season. Orlando bag a goal really quick against DC United away. And so they're not expected to win. They're not maybe not even expected to draw in this league away from home. And so all they had to do was bunker. And they did a very good job. And yes, they were fresher, and I think that played a factor into DC United creating chances and scoring goals later in the game. But you can't fault Orlando for doing what they had to do here.
Yeah, well, and I think the other thing, you said it spot on, and I mean, why not bunker against DC United right now? Because we can't. We still lack that just like prowess in the box, that dominant finishing touch where if you get someone in there and you play a, whether it's a cross in, whether it's you're trying to penetrate up the middle, we just don't seem to have that finishing touch. And I think tonight we, in a lot of ways, it's funny talking to someone in the stands too. I felt like we lacked some creativity, and the counterpoint I got was that we actually might have had too creative of a lineup out there, and they couldn't put it all together. But either way, you weren't seeing chances in the box, and if that's the scouting report you have, you go up a goal, whether you're home, away, whatever. Why not park the bus?
I think I disagree with that. The only change we saw was Paul Arriola starting for Andy Nahar, right? We didn't. So it's as creative for Julian Gressel. I'm sorry. So it's as creative of a lineup that we saw last game to this game. So the only change in factor is the 2-3 days rest that they had. So I don't know if it's a creativity issue. I think that the style that Hernan Losada is playing is one that is very rigid in the press up, but he also encourages his players to be creative, and he kind of teaches around the creativity of the players which runs to make. You have the runs outside, you have the runs in the center of the box, you have the runs kind of to the far post, and those are the runs that are being made, and it's creativity and depending upon which pass you make. So I wouldn't argue that it was the personnel on the field today. I really just think that we didn't have the tank and the gas in the tank.
I think my take on this is that Losada has done a good job of taking a roster that was not performing and making a performing team out of it, but there's no star of this team.
Yeah.
There's no Pozuelo, Lodero, Giovinco, if you want to go back that far, that get the ball to him and he can change the game for you. I don't think that there's a player in that team, and I don't want to disparage any player on the field for however many minutes tonight for that's just a fact of this roster. There's no player on DC United's roster that can just go on and score a goal. And if you can disrupt, like if you can defend to the point where that is not a factor, where the only thing that could beat you is one player having a very special moment, then you might be able to defend against DC United. I think the goals this team has scored have been very team based, getting to the end line and crossing it in. They're not superstar goals. I'm not asking for that. I think they're all good goals, but there's no player on the field that can break a game wide open for DC United.
Right.
So that's easy to defend against, right?
So what do we think about taking Flores off at Perez off at halftime? Because I have personally always said that I would rather see a team goal than an individual goal, because you can break down one individual, but it's harder to break down an entire team. And that's what kind of we saw from Orlando today. Yeah. But I think that Perez offered a lot last game.
Perez came off in the 64th minute.
You're right.
I think you're thinking of Nyman came off at a half.
Yeah, for Gressel.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit of a tactical change. But regardless, right, like Perez did come off, and we did see that tactical change kind of at half, and then 15 minutes after, we saw a significant difference from what we saw on Thursday. What, Joshua?
I'm just going to double down into my Perez hype right now. I think he is the heart of this team right now, and maybe not by like talent or skill or anything.
I love to hear it.
But I think he is the effort and the will and the little bit of talent that is Losada ball right now.
You almost want to call it grit.
No, I don't want to call it.
Joshua said absolutely not.
Because it's sometimes pretty. Like sometimes it's beautiful soccer what Perez has been doing out there, and I think he's been the epitome of Losada ball for me. Is that you can get in the space and you can do these movements and things that create goals. But yeah, DC United as a squad kind of lacked it tonight, and I think that was their downfall.
I was disappointed to see Perez come off, but I wasn't surprised because he put in a shift in Columbus. He put in a shift on Thursday. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of gas left in the tank, so I wasn't surprised, and I continue to commend Losada for his usage of substitutes, which obviously was something I think a lot of fans, including all of us probably, were frustrated about, particularly in the latter days of the Ben Olsen era. But now that you've got 5 substitutes available for another entire season for reasons that are beyond my comprehension, you got to use them. And he did tonight. And, I mean, I don't know. We could have played another half hour. I don't know that we would have scored. But I still feel like the goal we gave up was not a good goal to give up. This should have been a 0-0 draw. And there's no other way to look at it than it's drop points for DC United.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say that also we needed to change kind of one thing to turn the game in our direction. The whole kind of game just wasn't really in our direction.
I think this is such a fan thought, but a 3-1 loss to Columbus hurts me more than the 1-0 loss against Orlando at home, just because of how it played out on the field. Tonight, I felt like Orlando got maybe a little fortunate. Maybe we were at error in the moment, but over the course of the game, we were head to head with them.
Yeah.
Columbus, it felt like we kept shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And so I think you can build off of this game more than you can build off the Columbus loss. And DC United came off the Columbus loss with a win. So, who's to stop them from doing it off of this Orlando loss?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one was always hard. It's always hard coming off a midweek game into a weekend game. Exactly, especially when the team you're facing didn't also have a midweek game. And you kind of said the teams, was it you, Joshua, who said the teams that played with midweek all kind of had a rough go of it this weekend, and that's pretty standard. Yeah, I mean, it's just unfortunate. We always kind of knew this one was going hard. And then, I mean, next weekend we play Philly, which is a tough opponent, but coming off a week of rest and being able to recalibrate, I think we'll have a better chance going against Philly than we possibly did going against Orlando today.
Yeah, and I hope next week, we're seeing, I mean, we had heard this past week that there was a good chance that Bill Hamid could potentially be available tonight. He obviously wasn't. Hopefully that's true next week.
Do you think... Sorry to cut you off. Do you think that Bill Hamid would have made the difference in the goal? Again, I didn't see the goal live.
No. I don't.
No.
Obviously a leader on the field.
Yeah. Steve Birnbaum and Donovan Pines might have made the difference.
Yeah, for sure. I think, but just looking at the composition of the team, like having more guys back, more leaders on the field back, I think those could be big deals going into a game against Philadelphia, who obviously are a very good and well-coached team.
I mean, I'd love to see those guys back. And I commented during the game, you could tell a little bit that the defensive players were a little bit hesitant to play it back to Kempin, I think, playing it back to his feet. And I also, possibly, that's just a function of Losada's style, is that he didn't want it going all the way back to the keeper. Yeah, he wanted it going forward. We will have to see. I didn't notice it as much with Homeboy. Other goalkeeper. Nope, the other one. Sights. Thank you. I was like, Chris something. I didn't notice it as much with Sights in goal. Possibly that was just me. But with Sights or Bill back in the goal, I would look more as to how much they're passing it back. Is it just a John Kempin thing, or is it just that we don't want to be passing it all the way back to the keeper before we move it forward?
Yeah, but I also appreciate Losada saying that anyone on the roster could play, and I appreciate Kempin's Kempin's involvement in the game, and Losada rewarding people for showing out in practice. It shows that if you're on the bench, you're not going to be on the bench for the whole year. You better stay fresh and you better stay ready. But yeah, I am also ready for those guys that have been on the injury list for a while to come back.
We're live here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken. And as usual, if you want to get involved, please jump into our YouTube chat, our Twitter Live, our Twitch chat. You can text the show or you can call the show at 540-986-4833. That's 540-9-UNITED. We're pretty sure you can call the show, but we'd love for you to give it a shot, and then we'll know for sure. One of the folks who's getting involved with us tonight is Polpino on YouTube, and he says, I'm still of the mind that we need to wait until midseason to really be able to make true judgments, which I think most of us would agree with. But he also included the fact that both Ariel and Gressel skied crosses tonight. And you're honing in on something that,
buddy,
at least within the show here, we're all very passionate about, and we have our kind of sides on. But I think you're right. I've still yet to see the play I'd like to see out of those roles. Neither Gressel nor Paul have impressed me a whole lot. I'm biased, I'll admit that, as is Joshua. But
on opposite sides, so I kind of want to see you all face off.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think Gressel's been healthy for a while, and he hasn't done a whole heck of a lot, and Paul has not, and also is not doing a whole heck of a lot. So I would still give the edge to Paul here, but I know Joshua feels differently.
Look, it's just hard because we're literally not playing a striker right now, and so it's hard to judge a player who's. I mean, this is true for both Paul and Julian, where Julian requires someone to head the ball in from his crosses, and Paul has never been the lead number 9. He's always been a runner from deep. He was a right wing back for Xolos in Liga MX, and he was like a right wing when we had Lucho and Rooney leading the charge, and he did well in both of those positions, and we just haven't seen anything from either of them. Really, I think we should give Gressel credit for the crosses that he brought in. He has a number of assists, probably more than our $5 million DP. But yes, it's been disappointing for Gressel because he does. There's no finished product there. And then early signs for Paul, I don't want to judge too quickly, but it hasn't been great. He hasn't come on and been a revelation.
Yeah, not yet. Sam?
We have seen less of Paul, right? So it's harder to judge on him, but do you want to reward a one-trick pony? And when that one trick is into the leading all-time goal scorer, or the leading goal scorer of the season in Joseph Martinez at Atlanta, then it's super easy to say that one trick is really successful. But if you come to another team and you're unable to adapt to what that team needs, are you rewarding that pony? I don't know.
I think DC United has 0 ponies, and they've had none for quite a long time.
Listen, check off on your tried and true bingo. Take a shot if that's your game.
We should do that.
DC United putting out a bingo card?
Well, I was going to say take a shot based on said bingo card, but really both.
Also both. DC United has not had in your blood, in your bones, scoring anything, goal scoring striker since, I don't know, 2004. Like, it has been years and years and years and years and years, and it's super frustrating. And we've had moderately okay forwards, right, who are able to score goals and who are able to create. And sometimes in the system that you're playing, your goal scorer isn't necessary, or your forward is not necessarily your goal scorer. Sometimes they're making those runs and scoring the goals. Sometimes they're a little bit of that decoy run. Sometimes you have a Josie Altidore type forward in which they're also holding up the ball and laying it off, right? Your forward is not necessarily always your goal scorer. I think that's a typical soccer thought, but more and more, especially in the current game, that's not always necessarily true. But DC United has had none of the above,
right?
And it's very frustrating.
And Losada's gone on record as such. He said, "I would prefer to play a true number 9, but I don't have one that is fit currently." And wow, that's just
not only not fit, but on the roster.
Yeah.
Look, I'm still holding out for Robertha. MLS salary caps came out, and he's making double of what Ola came in. So that's a significant. I don't know what. Either that says something about Ola or that says something about Robertha. Take what you want, but there's a significant investment in Robertha, and so hopefully he had like an injury that was based off of stuff that happened in his past on his hamstring. Hopefully he comes back, and he is the solution. He is the Ola Kamara for Columbus Crew, the diamond in the rough that they found in the European leagues deep down.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Which I think is the difference that you're seeing in this DC United team, and I hate to harp on this injury list because everyone does, and Losada is super tired of hearing it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the difference that you're seeing is this very shallow bench that we have, and we're having to call up players who possibly wouldn't be seeing minutes otherwise. And if you had our starting first string roster, and then you're calling upon the guys who are starting today, who are maybe a caliber that they can fill in on these weeks that we have one game on Thursday and then one game on Sunday. If you can play your starters and then you can play your kind of bench second tier players and or you're sprinkling them in with each other, then you're able to get a better result out of a game like tonight.
Subs today include Julian Gressel, Felipe, Kevin Paredes, Ola Kamara, Yamil Assad. Sam, which one of those do you not think is quality?
Can you read off the injury list? Because a lot of our starters are still on the injury list. I'm not saying that anyone on the bench is not quality. I'm saying that you have a higher level quality on our injury list than you have on the bench.
I could find Goff's injury list tweet, but I think most
especially
of them are.
Especially in defense.
I think most of them are defensive now, but
that's what matters tonight, right? That's what happened
tonight.
Tonight.
I agree with that. I think.
But the goal, I didn't see it, but you all said that the goal was kind of a defensive breakdown. So if you have those starters in Birnbaum, potentially Pines,
it sort of was
Heinzike, who are holding down the defense, and then
we need to score.
Yeah, but
so even if we ship 3,
you got 83
if we can't
minutes.
Score any, the problem's on
But
the
the difference tonight in the quick turnaround was being scored upon.
But no,
I don't think we created nearly enough.
I think with 83 minutes at home, you have to generate a little bit more than we did. And I don't fault our guys for trying. I think they did a decent job of facilitating some sort of presence in the offensive half. I wouldn't say third, but half at least. But they never really felt like they were putting one in. Galesa's had a couple of saves that looked decent, but I wanted to see more, and maybe they saw us play with no forward and 2 attacking midfielders up top midweek, and they game plan for that. I'm not sure.
I do want to follow up, Sam. You asked for the official DC United injury list going into tonight's game. Players that are out: Eric Sorga, Steven Birnbaum, Bill Hamid, Yordi Reyna, Donovan Pines, Nigel Roberta, and Chris Aduya-Chem. Questionable was Griffin Yao, Jacob Green, Russell Canals, and Joseph Moore, and I believe 3 of the 4 of them made the bench tonight. And so when I look at the players that are out right now, there are still some significant names there, but it is definitely getting better than it was a couple weeks ago.
Absolutely.
You're right.
I circle Birnbaum, I circle Hamid, I circle Pines.
Canals.
And
Canals,
Canals was questionable and was available tonight. So I did not. I was looking at just the players who were ruled out, right?
Yeah.
And it's not to dismiss the players who I didn't circle there, but I think when you bring back a couple of those guys that I named, you then are looking at a much more normal injury list. You're going to have players that are unavailable. I think those difference makers are primarily on the defensive end, and that's where I'm a little bit concerned that I just don't think we created enough tonight. And if you bring those defenders back, yeah, perhaps you don't give up the goal, but how are we not scoring a goal or more at home? That's where the concern for me is.
I mean, absolutely. You're right. Maybe that comes in the summer window.
Yeah.
We said last game, this is not a Lucy
Lucy Rushton.
Yeah.
And Hernan Losada. These are not players that they signed. They came into a team that they are just having to work with. Yeah. So potentially when they are able to make moves, it's a little bit more of the team that Losada wants to be working with.
But I'll give you a glimmer of hope, Sam. I mean, a lot of these guys have gotten healthy in the past week. And we played 3 games in the past week, right? Yeah. And so in terms of installing them, right? Oh my goodness! But in terms of installing them and getting them as part of the system and things on the field, there hasn't been a ton of time for that. And so to see some rust isn't terribly surprising. I think when you move to next weekend, you expect another player to might be healthy, but when you look at everyone that was available tonight, I would expect for them to be a lot more comfortable and a lot more ready to show what they can do against Philly with a full week of practice.
My take is that Losada performed a miracle midweek. He got a team that was half full of that's harsh. MLS rejects is so harsh.
He said it though. He said you have a lot of guys who are overlooked by other teams, I think was his verbiage.
By overlooked, he means cut. We had a team of guys who were cut by a lot of MLS teams and signed from MLS or USL, and he got a win with that team. And I said it after last game. You had to win one of these two games. And if you get 3 points from 2 games, you're doing pretty good. Yeah. And so I'm not really mad at it. There was a drop-off. Skundrich, who was so good midweek, kind of meh today.
Yeah.
Perez, I thought he gave a good account for himself today, but he was fantastic midweek. Relative drop-off. And the rest of the team kind of the same, right? They weren't as up to the snuff as they were midweek.
Yeah, and I've said this before. We now have a week. We play Philly, who's going to be a real test, right? And then we have another week.
Red Bull helped them to 1 goal. It was a close game.
Screw New Jersey. So we have Philly, and then we have another week, and then we go to Miami, and we travel to Miami, right, which is a little bit of a distance, and then we have the international break. So I think these 2 games we need to get some points out of, and then after that break is when you're really going to see how he has this team driving together, because I think that at that point a lot of our injured players are going to be coming back, and he's going to get a real taste of what this team can provide to him in this system.
I think we had 3 players listed on provisional lineups for that. I think Paul was slightly on the Gold Cup.
I'm sure he is.
He is.
Moreno, and then Mora was also on the Costa Rica team. And so, look, that's
having
the
those
majority.
3 players out,
the majority of the roster is
that's 3 humans.
The majority of the roster in camp train with Losada
I'm sorry.
for an extended period of time, basically a month. Yeah, we could be looking at a different DC United team coming out of this international break. But yes, I think some sort of points, at least hopefully 1 out of these next 2 games, and I would feel a lot better.
I would hope either 1 out of both or 3 out of one of them would be my goal for these 2 games. Yeah. John
it took me a second. I was
like,
what are you saying? It's not going to be easy, but I think post Gold Cup is when I expect things to be really starting to click, or we're starting to be maybe at least raising some question marks, because at that point,
I don't know if we're raising question marks.
I didn't necessarily say about everything as a whole, but like if things aren't working, we need to start asking why.
Making moves.
I think at this point,
yeah,
I think at this point there are plenty of reasons why we're not winning every game right now, and we all understand that. As we get into the summer, we should be looking the part, and if we're not, I think we need to start asking why. That I'm not necessarily saying that's Losada. I'm not saying that's specific players, but we will need to investigate further as to why we're not getting the results we expect to get.
Look, man, Sergio Aguero's contract is fine. I'm just kidding. We'll see what happens, and yeah, I think that's fair, John. I think we get halfway through the year, we can start asking for more. I'm always for the fan asking more. When I go on rants on here, it's all out of making DC United better, and I think they're in a good spot right now. I think maybe there's some more work to be done, and I think Losada could probably do that with the current squad right now. If results go down, then maybe it's time for some new blood in the squad, or definitely nothing changing with the coaching team. We already went through that whole drama, but something to change.
I would venture to say we're seeing new blood regardless in the summer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think regardless of
if you're so bold to say.
Well, before you answer that, though, I agree, Sam. I think it would be disappointing to add a new game-changing head coach like Hernan Losada and bring in someone like Lucy Rushton to make such a difference in terms of analytics and in terms of the GM, and then make no moves in the summer. I mean, that would be shocking.
Are sitting on a stack of Gam Tam or whatever you call it. Remember we made all those trades. We sold the guy that was with Blackburn Rovers rights. We got Lucho's rights, and we're sitting on a stack of league money.
I would venture to say we'd see a forward based off what Joshua just said, that Erlan Losada would love to play with a true number 9.
I think it might be Roberta. Just like going, and this is just speculative.
We need a backup still, though.
Off of the Ola Kamara is probably the backup. Just going off their roster amounts. I don't think Roberta is slightly under the league max, and Ola is on a cheap now. But
yeah, I think Ola probably is the backup in that situation, and I think that can be true and also frustrating that you potentially have Roberta, you've got Ola, you've got Sorga, and you've got Camarnie Smith. And if you look past Roberta and you're like, we need more, then yeah, you've probably got to get rid of somebody. The question then becomes, how do you unload these people?
We've got a full roster, and that was a question when it came to the Skundrich signing. It was like a move has to be made, and luckily we get the league emergency injury signing, and I think that's how Skundrich is legal to play for DC United. But yeah, it's a weird situation for DC United. This is problems teams like Seattle and Atlanta have, where you have a bunch of players, and now if you want to bring someone in, you got to move someone on. And maybe it means moving someone to Loudoun on a permanent basis, and we don't get to bring them back for the rest of the year or something like that. But like, I'd be open for it. I would not be surprised that within 3 months that Lucy Rushton and Hernan Losada haven't zeroed in on their number 9 for the future. That's a big investment for any team ever, and I'd be surprised if DC United were quick at the trigger to pull that one up.
Yeah, we are very heavy in the midfield players, and I don't see us signing someone in the midfield. So when you ask me what this team needs to improve, in my mind, it's either the midfield or within the system, it's either the midfield or the forwards, and I don't see that happening in the midfield, which is why I said the number 9.
I hear.
Well, speaking of making improvements, we here at Tried and True are excited to partner with Manscaped for this episode, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free shipping worldwide. And we see you out there. There are people around the world that listen to this show.
Yeah.
Using the code Tried and True at manscaped.com.
So the 4.0 is brand new. It literally launched 2 weeks ago or something like that. We are super excited to have received the 4.0s and to be launching that for you all. And Joshua, I'm going to let you talk about your experience with it.
Yeah, it was just lucky to have the privilege to try it out. I thank Manscaped for that. I gotta say, it's something, guys. If you don't have a dedicated product for that, which I'm betting you don't, it's something that you didn't know you needed until you have it. It's a very quality.
I said last week.
Yeah, no, and it rang true. Like you said that before. I tried it, and then I tried it, and was like, wow. Look, guys, you don't want to be using your face razor down there. You don't want your down there razor on your face. Like, let's avoid that whole problem. Let's get something that's dedicated to your, your groin area or your body, and something that's going to do a good job at it, and not just like multi-purpose. And that's what the Manscaped 4.0 lawnmower is. It's fantastic. You can use it in the shower if you need to. It's got a flashlight, which is super helpful for seeing those hard to see areas. And the ceramic blade does a good job of not cutting or pinching or anything. I loved using it. And look, I have a lot of guys and girls in my family, and I will definitely be recommending it to them.
Yeah. Females, I said it last time. I know there are at least a couple of you. I received a Lawnmower 4.0. I tried it. I absolutely loved it. Like Joshua said, the little flashlight is super convenient. The light in my shower is out, so the flashlight was super convenient to see. I was very hesitant about cutting myself because obviously, I'm sure you guys too, that's like a really sensitive area and you're very tentative about it. I totally did not cut myself. Also, I'm super susceptible to razor burn, and I didn't use any shaving cream or anything like that, and there was absolutely no razor burn. So I cannot recommend this product enough. I know it's from Manscaped, but ladies, absolutely try it out also.
You can get 20% off and free shipping with the code TRIEDANDTRUE at manscaped.com. Again, that's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the code TRIEDANDTRUE. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. And thank you again to Manscaped for sponsoring today's episode.
Love it.
And with that, let's award our man of the match. The team, I paid attention today. You guys will be proud of me. The team gave it to Paul Arriola. That was announced as all hell was breaking loose in the supporter section. I was a little bit surprised with the shout, although I do think, and actually, I didn't want to circle back to it because we'd kind of moved a little bit past it, but there was a comment in the chat about the fact that they thought Paul did bring a little bit of a spark to the team today, and I think that's true. His energy level is it's there, and it's contagious sometimes, and so I agree with that. I don't know that he's necessarily my man of the match. I think for me it was so fun to see Kevin come in, but I know Sam's gonna pick Kevin, so I can't pick him.
We're not picking because other people are picking.
It's always fun to pick other people. It's always fun to pick other people. Let him have his thought process.
Look, I'll tell you, I think Fred Briand had a great game tonight. I think he played really well. He's continues to redeem himself for the performance in Columbus that was, below par for him.
Shocking.
And it was, and also unlucky too, right? I mean, it wasn't. He didn't just put in a stinker. It was a bad performance with some bad luck. But yeah, I think Fred did a great job tonight, again, anchoring a second, third, or fourth choice back line.
Yeah, I will give it to Kevin. We're just going to remain on brand tonight. I was thinking about it during the game. I don't know. No one really kind of rose to the top and really put their mark on the game, but I really enjoyed when Kevin came on. I think he had a lot of passion. He had a lot of moves that had the fans really cheering. He had a lot of turns on some players. He was fouled a couple times that I don't think were necessarily called, but they looked like fouls in the stand that really got the fans hype about it. And I don't know if there was another player who brought that hype, at least to the fans, right? Which to me says something when there's a game going on and the fans are just chanting about the game, and there's one specific player who gets the fans riled up about things that are happening at and around them. That says something to me, and that was Kevin Paredes tonight.
I thought he had one of the best shots of the game tonight too. It was tough. It was at the far end, but
I was so proud of him.
Good.
Yeah, that was such a confident shot. He had a couple turns in the boxes. He had put possibly a shout for something at the very end of the game. So
yeah, I'd like to see that one back.
Yeah.
Joshua?
Like Sam said, I think it's a tough night to reward a man of the match. No one really starred for DC United. It was kind of a meh performance. I'm going to give mine to Perez because I think he showed decent. Actually, I think he showed above par for a below par DC United, if that makes sense. And I think he's done it for a couple weeks, and he's one of those guys, I'll quote Losada from Sam, overlooked by other MLS teams. And so for a player to overcome that and come into this DC United squad, which is facing a lot in itself, a lot of turnover, a lot of change, a lot of adversity, he's coming in and put in, 3 performances now that I think he can be pretty proud of. And so in a game that we lose, that we hate to, unfortunately don't have a goal scorer or someone who dictated the game, I'll give mine to Perez.
Yeah, and a couple shouts on YouTube. Folks tending to agree with us here, and there's a good point in here from Paul Pino again. Like a couple exchanges between Flores and Arriola. Sucks Perez kind of faded a little bit, and I think that's, you're right. It definitely sucks, but he's played a lot of minutes lately, and I suspect that he's sort of like the Energizer Bunny out there, right, Joshua? And I think we're gonna see more and more of that, and we're gonna see it turn into quality as the season goes on, and when we're not playing 3 games in 8 days, hopefully.
So I'd love to get a general temperature check, which maybe unfairly came from a lot of perspective of people on this podcast.
I'm kind of hot, but I've got long sleeves on. Oh, you mean about?
Yeah, I can turn the air down for it if you want. Whatever.
Anyways.
So where are you all? We're not down on Losada ball, right? We just kind of agree.
Were.
No, I just want to take a temperature check because there was some perspective that people on this podcast were kind of down on Losada ball, and I want to give everyone each week the opportunity because we're still getting used to this system. Personally, I think this was just a hard night. It was always going to be a hard night, but we are still miles and miles ahead of where we were basically at any point last season, and we only have up to go from here. And I'd love to hear what you all have to say.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think it's a very neutral. It's a fair take to say that DC United probably would have been outmatched by this Orlando team without Losada. I think he's done a lot of work with a team that's very injured against a team that's very good. Orlando are one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference right now. Believe it or not.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
That's crazy to say, but you're right.
Between Mueller, Urso, Nani, all those players, they're pretty good, and they're coached by guys. If you don't know Oscar Pereira, he's an MLS legend. He did work at FC Dallas without very little money. He's doing a good amount of work over at Orlando City. I'm not mad at the result tonight. I think I'm a little frustrated, and I think Losada will be as well, that he doesn't have the 9 to play the style that he wants. I think he's making do with what he has right now, and that put in a good shift in the 90 minutes. Lost 1-0, but it was an early goal, and then Orlando kind of bunkered. I feel good about it.
Yeah, tough night at the office. I mean, I think when Losada Ball was introduced and we saw the injuries that came on, I thought, oh Lord, we're going to be shipping 4 and 5 goals a game trying to play this high pressing style, and it's going to suck. And we haven't done that. We shipped 4 in San Jose, and that was a really off game. But other than that, we've been sound defensively, and I think Losada and the back line, the third or fourth or fifth choice back line right now, deserve a ton of credit for that. I mean, we've played really well defensively, and the problem it just comes down to the fact that we don't have that true number 9 that I think we're gonna fix, and hopefully maybe it's on the roster, maybe it's Roberto, or maybe Kamara comes back out of this. I think there's still hope there, and Kamarni's showed some signs too.
Put in your faith in draft picks.
I love it.
If it was a Generated Adidas signing, Joshua would have been all in on it. But look, I'm with you. I think Losada Ball is still moving in the right direction. There's a lot of things to be excited about, and we'll get there.
Okay, fair. Yeah, good wrap up, I think.
So looking ahead, we talked a lot about it. DC United play Philly on Sunday. Is it really at 7 p.m.?
Yeah, it is.
That's
nice change of pace.
What I'm talking about right there. Let's
go.
Early. We'll bring on the sun lines on the cameras, but hey, I like it. It's going to help us do the show earlier, which is really what we're talking about. Before tonight's kickoff, Philly, Sam, you zoomed in on something here, and I don't.
They were tied for first in the East with 8 points.
Okay, and did they play tonight or
last night?
Last night. Okay. Yeah. Loudon, we talked about a little bit midweek. They play the Red Bulls 2 on Tuesday. That's their home opener out at Segra on Tuesday this week. So looking forward to that. Always a fun game. And the Spirit drew 1-1 tonight.
That's what I was zooming in for you.
I got it. There was just a bunch of words, and they were covering up other words. I didn't know where we were going with this.
Who
did they play?
Orlando.
Yeah,
we played Orlando
also
twice.
played Orlando.
Yeah.
They had the lead for a while, and unfortunately gave it up.
It was their season opener, though, so they're also kind of building into it, and they have a lot of new pieces that they're building in.
Another rebuild there as far as DC franchises in soccer.
Yeah.
But we're building to bigger and better things this season all around.
And they'll play again before United do. That's Friday the 21st at 7:30 p.m. is the next Washington Spirit game.
I believe that's away, too. So you can probably watch it on Paramount Plus or Twitch, just knowing.
One of the various services that show soccer these days. We'll give a shout out to our friends at Across the Pond. We appreciate their support, pushing our content, pushing our show, and pushing our sport. They show all the games. They do a great job in terms of specials for the games. I think they've got a cool cocktail they do during DC United games and several other things. And you can harass Sam's brother, which is really what we're all about here on Try to
All about it. That's what I'm all
it's
about.
weird. I leaned into harassment, and we're not about that. That was I gotta back that one off a little bit. If you want to mess with Sam's brother,
the show.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
No, for 24 years of my life, I was all about giving my little brother nonsense, and I support everyone else to do it too.
What do we miss?
I'll do the reminder to like, subscribe, follow.
What are we doing to that like button?
You smash it like a Julian Gressel cross.
Oh man! Right to the keeper of the other team.
I've been.
I was gonna say
I get the benefit of tracking the podcast downloads. So if you're in a cool place or you have a VPN and can set it to a cool place, I will see that and I will think that you are awesome for downloading our podcast from somewhere unique and exotic.
Uzbekistan.
Yes, please. Watch us actually get a download from there.
I like it.
I'm also gonna shout that we are going to Atlanta in September, which is super far away. But I've heard from the Screaming Eagles that we've had one or two people, sign up and get tickets to the Atlanta game, which is super hype. We're very excited for that road trip. We're doing that, and then we're doing Greenville. So if you want to just like hop on the road trip down to Greenville, exactly. Yeah. I just wanted to shout that too. I'm super excited for that away trip, and I know more than one of you has signed on for tickets for that, so I hope more people join us.
Call in line will be open, but we also have extra mic boxes, so you might end up on the show.
Right.
Back in the hotel room with us. It's Joshua's birthday. Make his dreams come true.
You might need to fill in for me, subbing.
That's right.
I'll be and drunk in the bed.
And if you're lucky, I'll even turn your mic on. Do we miss anything else?
That's it for me, man.
Yeah, I think it was good.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us this week here on Tried and True. We'll be back next Sunday night as I try to frantically get back to our closing song right here on Tried and True, the DC United Postgame podcast presented by Heineken.